Hello, my name is Michael Garrick, and this is PoppinCulture. My guest today is comedian Jonathan Williams, a very funny comedian from Charlotte, North Carolina. If he's in your city, please go check him out. Definitely funny. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, man, it's a delight to be here. Thank you for your kind words. I
Uh,
appreciate that.
no problem, brother. Um, so the topic you chose was mental health. But before we get into that, whenever a comedian's on, I like to ask. A lot of people like to focus on bombing, but I'm more focused on succeeding. So when was the first time you killed, and how did it feel?
The first time that I killed was the second time I did stand up. After in the first time, I mean it was night and day. The first time I absolutely bombed. The second time, yeah, I killed. It felt amazing. It was kind of like, all right, I'll give this one more try, and then and then it was an absolutely it just felt like a surprise, but a surprise. They every time they laughed, I was like, wait, they're laughing. I say something, they laugh. What is happening? And it was a really wild, amazing feeling. I was hooked. I was hooked. Ever since then, mixed bag. but yeah, man. Yeah, that's a good question. Nobody's
Uh,
asked me that before.
nice, nice, man. It's good to hear. Well, I've seen you once, and that night you killed that night. That was great, man. So does anything compare to that feeling? Anything you've done before?
Hmm. Um, to that feeling specifically, I bet that it feels similar, like to like a musician putting on like an amazing show. Like I bet that's a similar feeling, but I play guitar, but like I've never been in like a band where like you go and like perform and feel the room. Um, no, no, I don't think anything. It's not like there's nothing as good or nothing, but like the specific feeling. Yeah, I don't think so. I can't think of anything. What about for you?
When I asked this question, on the just throwing out a wild number, majority of people have said sex.
So that's the first thing that popped in my head, but like, because I'm I'm me and I'm a human being. I think that's probably what most people think, whether or not they say it. But like, that's like a good. I mean, they're in the ballpark of like good, of like quality, but the actual like similar feeling, no, they shouldn't feel the same. That's weird if they do. You know what I mean? Like equal, like similar levels of good, but like totally different kinds.
True. I've never got sleepy after doing stand up. So yeah.
I mean, I've never gotten an erection on stage. I don't think. Maybe I have. I don't know.
Yeah. It's I I have, but it was just a whole front row of titties. Like it was just this whole section of titties. I don't know if they came together or not, but I was just like,
Honestly, that is it's kind of impressive actually. I don't think that I would have the That's amazing. Congratulations
thank you so
on that
much.
on-stage boner. That's exciting.
Oh man, I never thought I'd get congratulated for blue balls, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, man. Uh, so I know I'm not gonna take much of your time. Do you got some other things you need to attend to?
Yeah, man,
Uh,
I'm done. If I could just go now, that'd be good. This has really been pretty boring actually. No. No, man. No, let's do it. Let's jam.
okay, we'll get straight to it. Mental health. Any special reason why you chose the topic?
Uh yeah, well, a bunch. One is it's just close to home. It's something that I have like pretty notable mental health issues. I've diagnosed anxiety and depression. Seems like a lot of people are now, but and it's something that it's it's something that's part of my everyday life, like everyday life. And I feel like right now in particular, in the last year and a half, it's been particularly important, and people, myself included, with COVID, with just the effect that it's had on me and on other people, like it's impossible to ignore, at least to ignore and be smart. Yeah.
I didn't know that, man. From the outside looking in, I promise you, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Um, hey man, if you ever need somebody to talk to, man, I'm always here.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
Uh, uh,
No, like, the thing is, like, it's like, it's just my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm constantly miserable or constantly worried, anything like that. It's just, there's an undercurrent of, these things at all times, a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never like all the way, I'm always feeling a little bit of weight, if that makes sense. I'm always feeling a little dragged down, and I'm always feeling a little antsy. But like, and sometimes it gets, really bad. But everybody has stuff, you know what I mean? And this is one thing. But it's something I live with, and it's okay. I as long as you manage it, it's fine. And part of the reason I like to talk about it is, like, um I feel like, I feel sometimes, even right now, even talking about myself with it right now, I always feel a little bit of like embarrassment or shame or something, because, like, I feel like for a lot of people, they hear, you hear I have depression or I have anxiety, they're just like, whatever, dude, you're just sad and anxious, like, get over it, like, it's what, you know
I hope people don't think that way. That's pretty mean, man.
I think a lot of people, whether they say it or not, they think that. And, like, it's real, it's a very real thing, and it's something that I like to it's something that I will talk about pretty readily. And I just feel like, I don't know, it's important to acknowledge that these things are actual conditions. They're not just somebody being weak or whiny. So I don't know. That's kind of like why I like to talk about it. But it's
Uh,
yeah.
well, screw those people, man.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
how that's terrible. I'd rather listen to somebody than like read their obituary. That's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah, man.
Wow, I hope this isn't an inappropriate question, and let me know if it is.
Dude, it's
What
probably not. Go ahead.
uh what tips do you have for other people that are dealing with what you're dealing with?
Oh, no, that's a good question.
Okay, cool.
I
I
mean,
didn't want to treat it like it was health, like it was like a workout thing.
well, I mean, okay, I see what you mean. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate you being like, like, caring whether or not it was, but, an okay question. Absolutely an okay question. And, like, I'm super, maybe too open about, like, it's not something, it doesn't feel taboo to me. I just talk about it. Um, so it's not going to be the same for any two people, but I think one thing, get help, like professional help. And if that starts with, like, if it's like a desperate situation, like calling like a suicide prevention line or whatever, or something like that. But even if you're not there, if you're just at a place where you're like, where you do feel like a weight kind of pulling you down every day, or like getting out of bed, dude, I don't remember the last time getting out of bed felt okay. And, like, so like, anyone, I don't know if it rings a bell, or if you just feel this constant current of, like, why do I feel this weight and this sadness that, like, doesn't make sense, like, it doesn't necessarily correspond to what's happening in my life, or it doesn't necessarily or it feels too intense. Like if something small happens and it feels like the end of the world. Or and on the anxiety side, if you feel like, if you're constantly feeling like just a hornet's nest inside of your gut, like these are not, they're not, the way I say that, I want to be careful with this word, but they're not normal. And what I mean by normal is not like you're weird if you have it. What I mean they're not normal is there's something there and you need to talk to somebody about it. Yeah, just talk to somebody, call up, say, Google psychiatrist, go to Psychology Today, whatever. Or type in, what should I do about depression? Like getting professional help is my absolute number one recommendation for anyone who's experiencing depression, anxiety, other things. Those are the two I know. Yeah, get help.
Nice, man. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
guys, please.
and stop being a pussy. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I can say that. You're speechless.
But guys, like everything he said, but the last part, guys, please go get if you need help, please guys help, and please people be good people and listen. Like,
yeah, that's, you know what, the second side of the message is honestly, don't be a dick. Like, this is real. Like the problem with it is that there's no broken leg. There's nothing visible. There's no way to like show it. You can't point to it. You can't say like, here's what's happening to my, it's something that you feel. So it's hard to, like, if you have something to point to, people will be like, okay, I believe that is a medical thing. But anxiety and depression are feelings that people who don't have clinical anxiety, clinical depression, still will experience depression sometimes and experience anxiety. So it's hard, I think, sometimes for people to then understand that, like, no, there's a difference between you experiencing it sometimes and it being totally ingrained in you. Right. So I think that's an important thing. Sometimes I think maybe some people just don't quite understand that it's not the same,
I had a friend that he was clinically depressed. I know he had a doctor that came through and said he was clinically depressed,
right?
And he had to take medicine.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that medicine is needed?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if you there are some like alternative treatments I've heard of that, and it sounds like they work for a lot of people, or in some cases, but like for most people who have actual clinical depression, anxiety, bipolar, the best move, at least at first, talk to a psychiatrist, and they are, if they're going to put you on something. And it's like, if you're sick, if you have a cold, you take cold medicine, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing, it's just, yes, you should listen to what hopefully a decent psychiatrist is going to tell you to do. That,
I didn't deep dive into his personal business growing up because
Sure.
it was not my business. But are most of these drugs daily, or is it when needed?
Daily for me. There are a whole bunch of different ones.
Okay.
Some of them work well for people, some of them don't. You have to kind of mess around with it to kind of find the right combination. You obviously, in conjunction with your psychiatrist, you sort of mess with it. Like I've tried a few different things. I've found like the right combination that works. And sometimes it changes. Sometimes you get to a point where you're like, I think we need to sort of try some other things as well. And some of them, like some things will work great for like, I take something, it's called Wellbutrin. It's an SSRI, which letters I always forget. They have to do with serotonin, something or other. And like for me, that helps get a little bit of a hold on depression, right? Drugs are not gonna fix everything, nor should they. But it helps. For some people, they take that and it makes it worse. Right. So that happens too. So that's why they always say, like, they're like, if you start feeling worse, immediately call whoever, call your psychiatrist, call the doctor. Like, so it's tricky, but yeah.
When it comes to taking the medicine daily, and there's no deep dive. Of course, I take medicine too. I try my best not to, but I definitely take medicine. When it comes to taking medicine daily, is there any like worries about your liver or anything? Or
Depends on the drugs. The ones that I use, I've
okay,
never had any, it's never had an effect on, or at least a negative effect that I know about, at least on my actual, physiology. Like, hasn't made me sick or anything like that. I think, again, it just depends. Some things are stronger than others. That's why psychiatrists have a whole, a psychiatrist. So there's like psychiatrists and a therapist, right?
yep.
Psychiatrists, they sometimes will also sort of have a therapist-ish function. Like they'll talk to you if they're any good, and they'll listen to you and have feedback. But their real job, what their job is getting the drugs right. That's what a psychiatrist is. That's reductive. Any psychiatrist who hears that is probably like, all right, buddy, it's a little bit more than that. But that's sort of the heart of it. They're figuring out the medical side of it.
Is a psychiatrist somewhere? Like, does he think I'm a pharmacist? Is that what he thinks I
Yeah,
am?
exactly.
Is that what he?
Exactly. No, but they're the ones who write the prescriptions. And then a therapist is they'll talk to you about possible drugs and stuff like that, but they can't write prescriptions. That's not their job. Is talking to you, helping you get to things, and with your thought processes, with what getting to the bottom of certain feelings you have. So it's like, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Like,
I've been to a therapist, man. I went to two sessions, and the guy was like, "You don't need to be here." I I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and then I got disfellowship, so I didn't
he's
have like
wrong. You need to be there.
fair play. Uh, but I didn't have any friends or family. Like everybody was gone. I had no, I had to start over again. So I went to therapy, and man, I started talking, and then the second session, he was like, "Hey, man, I think you're just a little lonely. I don't hear anything that sounds, you know,
Interesting.
you know."
I feel like there's different philosophies of therapy, and there's different therapists see things different ways and stuff. I feel like, and this is an easy thing to say for someone with state health insurance, which is pretty decent insurance. If it's something that's easily affordable, I don't think I think literally everyone could benefit from therapy. I don't think you have to be desperate. I don't think you don't have to have mental illness. You don't have, like, therapy is somewhere where you go, and you're paying someone, or you're paying a copay or whatever, um, to talk about you for an hour. You don't owe them anything.
So it's like
Friends.
stand up.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Except the person is like listening. Uh, no, but like, so it's their job, and you don't owe them. When you're talking to a friend, there's a give and take, right? If you just talk about yourself all the time, that's not a friendship, right? But with a therapist, it's fully about you, and you don't owe them anything except for the money. right? So I think it can be beneficial for you don't have to be mentally ill to go to a therapist.
Oh, I totally agree. Like when he
Yeah,
told me I didn't have to go back, it was just one of those things where like my job took care of it. I had like five visits
yeah.
because of my job at that time. But when he said I didn't need to come back, I was just like, well, I guess I was like 22, so I was just like, oh, I guess I'll have to go back.
You can
Uh,
always talk to somebody else.
yeah,
Some therapists suck.
yeah, I'm learning that now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely learning that now.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
anything else. Yeah.
yeah. So I wanted to, of course, we're talking about how mental illness has influenced pop culture, and thank you so much for sharing your story
Yeah, of
and giving people
course.
tips. Now, I wanted to bring up the worst and possibly the best when it comes to pop culture. I want to start with the early days. Mental illness in the early days was horribly showed. Like it wasn't showed
Yeah,
properly at all.
yeah,
It was showed, I would guess it was like the reefer madness of mental illness at the time.
totally.
One horrible example, in my opinion, was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think they depicted mental illness well at all.
It's been a minute since I've seen it, so I can't really speak to it with a ton of clarity. But yeah, I feel like there are, if I remember it correctly, there definitely are a lot of like, I guess you'd call them stereotypes or whatever, of just like where it's like, yeah, if you mental illness means you're crazy, right? Just you have to be locked away. You have to, and you're going to be sitting in a corner and rocking, and at best playing checkers by yourself, you know.
Yes.
But I don't remember the movie that well. It's been a minute. Is that kind of what it's like?
Yeah, it was not a good depiction of mental illness at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
But I think they have done better. One example I would give is sorry, I'm Southern, public school, Silver Lining
Hey,
Playbook.
that's what I do.
Okay,
Silver Linings Playbook. Okay, so I've heard this a lot. I think they do a terrible job depicting mental illness.
okay, all right. Well,
I do, and I don't
you
mean
would
this to.
know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like confrontational. I'm not just being contrarian, and I'm not like mad at you for that. But it's just like I've heard this a lot. I've heard it being. I think it does engage with mental illness, and I think I mean, obviously engages mental illness, and I think it's well intentioned, but to me, like there's still it's a little bit more, I guess, subtle, but it's still like, look at those two loony kids. Like he
Okay,
throws, he's throwing the book out the window because it doesn't end how he wants it to. And she's like, what does she just like have like, I don't remember what Jennifer Lawrence
she
characters
was
deal with.
depressed. I think
Yeah.
clinically depressed. I believe that was
Yeah.
it.
But they both have these like behaviors, right? That are like extreme, right? Which can be how it is for mentally ill, for people with, I think they both were supposed to be bipolar, if I remember correctly. Um, but either way, like they have these extreme behaviors. And I feel like that movie kind of almost like teaches you like mentally ill people always have extreme behaviors, which is just not the case. Like, I mean, on the whole, I'd say for myself, like my depression particularly gets, I mean, it's hardcore sometimes, like real bad sometimes. But that doesn't mean that I'm like, I've never done any of I've never like attempted suicide. I'm not, have I had thoughts? Absolutely. But like I've never, and I've never like acted out. People can have profound mental illness without doing crazy, quote unquote, things. And there's nothing wrong with it. If you're somebody who your mental illness does manifest in a way that you have extreme behaviors, I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying the concept that all people who have mental illness are like do extreme things it's just not true.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, man. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it. definitely got to look at it from a different viewpoint now. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Another movie that I think, well, you can let me know, um,
No, of course. No, listen, yeah. Yeah.
was a movie that I just, you wouldn't think it would talk about mental illness, but they were, they had the site to be like, we can talk about it. Was Iron Man 3 with Tony
Interesting.
Stark.
I don't remember. Remind me what
And
happens in.
Iron Man 3 was right after the first Avengers movie, and Tony Stark, sorry, was still having like PTSD from the wormhole that he fell out of,
Oh,
and not
right.
being able to defend the Earth. And
Yeah.
they depicted in a lot of scenes where he was just shell shocked whenever somebody brought it up, and I thought maybe that was shown pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember the depiction in that particular movie. PTSD is something that I know nothing about. And that is
Okay.
absolute, I mean, obviously that's mental illness that is, it's in the name, brought on by trauma, you know. That's not something that I couldn't really speak to what that really is in any kind of way other than just sort of cultural osmo. You know, I know you know about as well as I do what PTSD, what a portrayal of how good or bad a portrayal of PTSD is. I
Okay.
would I would guess that probably it's a similar thing where not everyone with PTSD is going to be acting a certain way, one way or the other. Someone can seem like super chill, nothing wrong with them, and they're absolutely, traumatized.
Nice, nice.
So,
The two last movies I wanted to ask you about, they're both pretty much not the same movie, but they definitely hit on the same notes. Was Taxi Driver and Joker.
okay.
Um, do you believe those are a good
I
viewpoints of mental illness?
I think they're more interesting
Okay,
viewpoints than the ones that you've said so far.
okay,
Of course, I think what makes them more interesting is that, and more, I can take them a little bit more seriously, which is kind of backwards in a way, but is that they know these movies are aware that they're taking this to the extreme. I feel like Silver Linings Playbook is like, look, this is what it is. We're getting it exactly right. You know what I mean? Whereas something like Joker or something like Taxi Driver, or I would throw Nightcrawlers in there.
okay.
Have you seen Nightcrawlers, Jake
Yep,
Gyllenhaal? Yeah.
yep.
Um, that's getting into, that's more of a like exploration of
Man, thank God for that movie, right? You remember he did Prince of Persia, and everybody was like, "What the fuck is that?"
yeah, like, oh, Jake Gyllenhaal is actually an insanely good and terrifying actor. Yeah, I'm okay with that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people would actually disagree with me on that probably, but things that are just, to me, those movies are like, hey, some people aren't okay. And that's the main takeaway. And I think that's a good thing. Now, at the end of the day, it's more, I can see problems people would have with something like Joker as a portrayal of mental illness, because they could see it the way that I see some of the other ones we talked about, where it's like, hey, we're not all going to go out and, you know, whatever, cause mayhem in the streets and murder people and but I don't know. I think they're at least more interesting than the other ones
Yeah.
we've talked about so far.
I wanted to hit on music with you. A few artists have dealt with mental illness, and they let it influence some of their music, I believe, and definitely I believe music helped them through their trauma. Amy Winehouse. Um, I don't know if that's like the example I should bring up. Maybe I shouldn't, but
No, man.
I think it definitely.
Sometimes
I,
people die.
yeah, okay, that's true.
you know?
Uh, I wouldn't say that it helped her music, but you could definitely feel things that she was going through
Yeah.
within her music. Is there any other artist like that that comes to mind?
Yeah, man. Oh man. Especially within me, I feel like music is where you can, at least where I can see it the most. Like sometimes I'll just, and of course I'm sure I'm wrong sometimes, but sometimes I just hear a song, I'm like, oh boy, I know that. You know what I mean? And you have some examples of some really common examples are Kurt Cobain and Elliott Smith, both of whom ended up killing themselves. Like that weight that I've talked about before, where it almost feels like a physical weight dragging you down. I can hear that so hard in their music. Like it is there and in such an intense way. And those are complicated because I value them a lot. And I think their music is great. Both I think Nirvana is great. I particularly like Elliott Smith, but like there are also examples of extremes of I don't know. One thing that's really tricky is like, and I struggle with this, is like, does my mental illness, is it necessary for what I'm trying to do with comedy? I don't know. Maybe it is. You know what I mean? Like, if I could push a button to get rid of it, to get rid of the depression, and then like, I don't know if I would. I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to like, I kind of didn't really answer your question, but yeah, it's other musicians. I don't know. I just think that whole issue of mental illness and art is a really complicated question. Like mental illness that the artist has, even if it's not depicted directly in the music or in the or in whatever it is.
Nice, nice. Is there any other ways you think that mental illness has influenced pop culture?
Yeah. I mean, like it's just, it's all over the place. I mean, you see things like that. What was that teen drama show? 13 Reasons Why. Did you ever watch that?
No, but I heard a lot of great things.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, and that's not actually necessarily specifically mental illness. That has a lot more to do with like
Was it like
how
The
out.
Secret Life of Teenagers? Was it kind of like that?
I don't know what that is.
It was on
Oh
like
yeah,
ABC Family.
yeah. No, if it was on ABC Family, then definitely not.
Okay.
13 Reasons Why is like really, it's like really intense. But I think that a lot, yeah, I think mental illnesses influence on pop culture and culture in general is enormous. I mean, you look at somebody like Van Gogh, right? You have to wonder, would we get that stuff from him if he wasn't going through that if he wasn't going through the nightmare that he was going through? Would we get those beautiful paintings? I don't know if we would. I'm not saying that mental illness is not a good thing. I don't want anyone to hear what I'm saying and think that I'm saying that. It's not. It's bad. It sucks. And some people end up dying because of it. I don't want that to sound like that's what I'm saying, but like, I feel like it's complicated with a lot of art, I think, has come out of it, which actually, that fact sucks. But you know what I mean?
No, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know exactly what you mean. I think almost every comedian is a little messed up, man. Like we literally get on stage and like try to make people laugh. And I think Louis C.K. said it. It may have been somebody else, but I want to say it was him. Just like, why are we up here? There's no reason for us to be up here. Like,
yeah.
there's no. Why do you want to hear what I'm saying? You know?
He definitely shouldn't be up there, but yeah, great guy, great guy. No, but you're absolutely right. I totally agree with that. I think like just the level of, we all have a certain level of ego, or that is just kind of insane. Like to think, you know what? People need to hear what I have to say. It's kind of an insane thing to think. Like politicians, people have been trying to do it, have been trying to make society work for a long time, but I think I have the answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's with comedy. People are gonna want to hear just me on a stage. People are gonna want to hear this. It's kind of absurd, but we do it.
Yeah. And my last question for you: you said you wouldn't want a cure, but do you believe there will be a cure one day?
Um, well, I want to like back off of saying I don't want to. I mean, I I I want to be. Ah, man.
Sorry, man. I didn't mean to ask hard questions.
No, no, dude. Why not? Who cares? Let's ask. I guess I'm taking away from the comedic element of the show. I'm sorry for that,
No,
but
no, 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 dude. Dude, be you. All I
yeah,
want is
yeah,
you to be you.
yeah, unfunny. Yeah. So well, thanks. I know that's not what you meant, or maybe it is. I don't care. But like, no, I don't. No, I don't think there will be a cure. Because I think it's too tricky. Like, it's not all one. Like I said, there's different medicines work different ways. Sometimes they work for. It's a moving target. It's like trying to shoot a cloud. Like, I think there'll be probably more and more sophisticated, more and more effective ways of treating it, making it easier to live with. But a cure, no, I don't think so. And also, no, I want there to, if there could be a cure, I would say, please let there be a cure. What I was saying before was like, I have to wonder how much it feeds into what I do. I don't like that might be the case, but no, if I could press a button and there be a cure, I'd press that button right now.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, dude.
Please tell them where they can follow you. And is there anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Hopefully you'll exist one day. It's very, I mean, I'm on I'm on social media. I'm on the things at J Williams Comedy, Instagram and Twitter, and I don't know, I might get a TikTok, but I feel like once you post one video, you got it. Like, you've committed, you know. I don't know, but yeah, Jay Williams Comedy on the things. I also have I have a podcast as well that I do with a comedian who does have fans, named Tara Brown.
It's a great podcast, guys. Please check it out.
Thanks, man. It's called Preacher's Kids. It's about our different, very different experiences with religion, and you can find that at you can find that on the Queen City Podcast Network website, or you can go to PK's Pod, PKSPOD on Instagram to get linked into that. Those are my plugs.
Cool. All right, man. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you
Yeah,
guys for
dude.
listening and have an amazing day.